Professor Spectrum, experts in spectral technology.
Hi, and welcome back to Professor Spectrum. Today we're going to help you troubleshoot why your portable XRF might be acting a little bit slow. We're specifically going to be looking at software though, and not the external hardware. So let's get started. So one of the possible reasons your XRF might be acting a bit slow and you might be experiencing some possible delays or glitches is usually because you're holding too much data on the actual instrument. So this can happen to any brand of portable XRF, and it really just comes down to the internal workings of the computer system. So the most common culprit for why you might be experiencing some delays, some glitching, is actually because you might be holding too much data on your portable XRF. I want to reiterate here that this is not just for one brand of portable XRF, but it's an experience that will happen across the board because it's to do with the way that the software requires memory space. The more analyses that you take, the more that gets stored onto the instrument. Over time, this becomes too full and will slow down your instrument in other areas. So a good analogy for this is a fridge. So in this fridge, it has every part that a normal fridge has, so things like the refrigerant, the doors, the lights, the shelves. We can consider this the hardware, but we're not interested in that today. We're more interested in what is stored in the fridge. So things for the XRF would be like the read-only memory, so what the XRF uses to know how to turn on, but also the RAM, so the random access memory. And we really want to focus on the random access memory for this analogy. So the ROM, so the read-only memory, does take up memory space and it will always be there because the XRF needs to know how to turn on. However, we don't need to worry about that, but it does take up a little bit of space in the fridge. What we're more concerned about is the RAM. So the random access memory is what the XRF uses every time it wants to operate and move between interfaces, and more importantly, store short-term memory such as data. To break that down further, we have in the RAM what the XRF requires to be able to operate between different interfaces in the software, but we also have what is being added to the instrument every time you take an analysis. So back to the fridge, if we think about shelves, every time you take an analysis, you're adding something to the shelf. So when you take an analysis, it takes up space on the shelf. For example, a can. And every time you do that, the shelf becomes more full. So more data equals fuller shelves, so a fuller fridge, which means overall less memory space. So if we can think of the RAM again as the two parts, and this part of the RAM where it's the XRF's part of the memory space, and this part is where you're adding to it, this part always needs to be accessed. So in terms of a fridge, we can think about water jugs. You always have that in the fridge and you always want to have it accessible. However, if you keep adding more and more data to your fridge or to your memory, the XRF is going to have a bit more of a struggle to access its water jugs or its bits in the software that help it move around. Number two, don't make a habit of it. If you think about the water jugs and you think about all the data around it, that causes a lot of energy to grab those water jugs. So the less data on the instrument, the better. It means less energy, which means prolonged life. Because if you continue to cram data onto your instrument storage, eventually the instrument won't want to operate or even potentially turn on, and that means electronic parts will need to be replaced. And this can become expensive and inconvenient, especially if you use the portable XRF as part of your everyday projects. Number three, here at Portable Spectral Services, as a general rule of thumb, we recommend no more, give or take, 300 analyses to be held on your instrument at any one time. If you're analyzing for roughly a full workday, so about 8 hours, that will be about 300 samples if you're analyzing for a minute per sample. So in summary, just remember, if your interface is acting a bit slow, more RAM, so more random access memory, faster interface. If you'd like further information on how to back up your data, check out our YouTube channel. This has been Professor Spectrum, and we'll see you next time.